On May 20th, 2019, Ukraine witnessed a monumental change in leadership. Vladimir Zelensky, a former comedian, has become an unexpected beacon of hope amid a wave of public disappointment. His landslide victory, receiving 73% of the vote in the second round, marked a departure from previous policies. Zelensky's triumph underscored the dissatisfaction of the Ukrainian population with the previous regime. The electorate was tired of corruption, economic hardship, and the suppression of local languages, including Russian, as well as the alarming growth of fascist groups and their political influence. People saw in Zelensky potential hope for change. It is noteworthy that, without widespread public support, fascist groups gained disproportionate influence by serving as tools of the political elite. This paradox shed light on the complexity of Ukraine's socio-political landscape, where fringe ideologies have gained unexpected influence. It is extremely important that fatigue caused by the protracted conflict in Donbass played a decisive role. Zelensky's rise to power was fueled by his image as a sensitive figure who resonated with ordinary citizens burdened by the ongoing conflict. However, after the elections, Zelensky's presidency took an unexpected turn. Contrary to his promises, people have seen opposition channels shut down, raising concerns about freedom of speech and a backsliding on planned reforms. In addition, Zelensky challenged the decisions of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, initiating successful changes in its composition. As a native Russian speaker, Zelensky has taken a tougher stance on the Russian language compared to Poroshenko. During his reign, there was a noticeable spike in the level of corruption, and despite the fact that Zelensky himself is a Ukrainian Jew, he was unable to effectively solve the problem of the presence of fascist groups. It is noteworthy that despite promising to stop the ongoing conflict, he announced that the fight would continue. Zelensky's governance isn't solely his doing. Let's peek into his government's composition. Ermak, his chief advisor, heavily influences Zelensky's decisions. Arestovich, an advisor, often shares grand narratives about Ukraine's future, foreseeing it as a global powerhouse and predicting Russia's demise. Podolyak, another voice, echoes similar stories to Arestovich. Bakanov, Zelensky's childhood friend, held a significant role as Ukraine's security services head, despite his background in entertainment. Lastly, Danilov, at the helm of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, plays a crucial role in shaping the nation's strategies. These names might not be familiar, but their actions have had a profound impact on Ukraine. Despite initially entering power as a beacon of Ukrainian democracy, Zelensky's administration took part in anti-democratic measures, edging towards a form of dictatorship. With elections looming in 2 years, Zelensky and his friends were searching for ways to solidify his position, even going as far as attempting to imprison all of his opponents. Despite facing opposition from politicians and oligarchs, Zelensky and his allies were determined to cling to power. Zelensky found all his answers in February 2021. A failed Russian attack provided an opportunity for Zelensky. As the war began, causing panic among ordinary Ukrainians, Zelensky made drastic moves. As a leader, he first banned 16 opposition parties, and most importantly, he met with actor Sean Penn in Kiev during such a critical time for his own nation. After the events, a change in Western perception transformed Zelensky from a dictator into a hero of democracy, a symbol of the civilized world. Thanks to increased Western support, Zelensky's government has gained popularity and recognition. However, this international recognition has inflated the egos within the Ukrainian administration. Western attention to Zelensky's image has overshadowed previous and ongoing problems: corruption, fascist elements, and a significant black market for weapons in Ukraine that supplies militants around the world. In the early stages of the conflict, Western countries selectively blocked information, ignoring evidence of provocative military postures that endangered civilian infrastructure. This support, conditioned by the ongoing conflict with Russia, was aimed at ensuring that Ukrainian forces reached Crimea with the aim of destabilizing Putin's regime. The ultimate goal was to provoke a revolution and destroy Russia forever. Now, Let's see where we are now and how badly can a government destroy its own country. The recent failed counteroffensive in Ukraine has shed light on the flawed planning of the operation. We have witnessed a sharp contrast between the promises made and the actions of Zelensky's friends, especially in the first months of the conflict. Multiple sources, including Ukrainian soldiers, officers, and politicians, have revealed an unbelievable aspect of the plan to retake Crimea. Officials admitted that the strategy was based on the belief that Russian soldiers would flee when they saw modern Western weapons such as the German Leopard tank, the American Bradley tank, or the British Storm Shadow rockers. Again, the plan was created around the idea that Russian soldiers would run when they saw German tanks. I just have one question. Are you that stupid? This plan was based on the absurd idea that an entire Russian army would collapse simply by colliding with Western military equipment. It's amazing to think that anyone could believe such an idea. Relentless Western propaganda, like stories about Russians allegedly stealing processors from European refrigerators, has not only misled the uninformed, but also influenced the highest levels of the Ukrainian government. Let's rewind and examine the behavior of Ukrainian officials prior to the failed counteroffensive. Podolyak, an advisor to Zelensky, boldly proclaimed, "In 6 months, I will go to Yalta and talk about the fate of Crimea." This rhetoric escalated further when he even dared to threaten China in response to Russia's armament. The main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Budanov, spoke confidently about the liberation of territories and the final defeat of Russia, encompassing Crimea to Donbass. Another key figure, Arestovich, was equally brash in his statements regarding the counteroffensive, declaring, "Russians, you will like it. Your grandchildren will remember," and forecasting the return of Crimea within 6 months, extending the conflict's scope to reclaim regions like Kuban and Rostov-on-Don. Danilov, voicing plans for Crimea, highlighted intentions to deoccupy Crimea through measures such as lustration, stripping voting rights based on connections to Russia, dismantling the Crimean Bridge, and instituting a detoxification program akin to post-World War II denazification methods. Worth noting is Danilov's kids residing in the USA while he champions these initiatives, and Zelensky's childhood friend, Bakhanov, vanished from Ukraine after the war's onset. Now, let's see what these symbols of democracy and civilized world say now. After the counteroffensive, the mood of key Ukrainian figures changed dramatically. Podolyak, Zelensky's advisor, now acknowledges the difficult nature of the counteroffensive. However, he appeals to the European Union for help, asking the Ukrainians to return for further fighting. Now, Budanov's view of protracted conflict draws parallels with unresolved historical state wars, such as the territorial dispute between Russia and Japan, which has continued more than 70 years after World War II. He hints that a similar scenario could take place in relations between Russia and Ukraine. Arestovich, a prominent figure, paints a grim picture, bemoaning Ukraine's loss of dignity and its march toward disaster. He notes the lag between public opinion and current events, attributing Ukraine's plight to recklessness, greed, hypocrisy, and loss of dignity. Danilov, in a more introspective tone, acknowledges that public expectations for an effective counteroffensive operation were overly optimistic. While he acknowledges human mistakes, he does not specify whether these mistakes relate to counteroffensive planning or misled citizen expectations. Some might interpret this as gloating, but it's a profound lesson for all. While politicians often make grand statements, Ukrainian leaders take it to another level, sometimes believing their own exaggerations. This has come at a significant cost for Ukraine, a shattered economy, millions fleeing, and the erosion of democracy and opposition voices. All of this could have been avoided had the March Agreement been signed. Now, following this colossal failure, the West seems hesitant to allocate more funds from their budget and is gradually shifting attention away from Ukraine. It raises a crucial question. What explanation will Zelensky's government offer to future generations for these grave missteps?